Hello again. So, in this series of YouTube videos on dementia or memory loss or Alzheimer's disease, I'm continuing on the same thing. This one is a little bit on cognitive ability. The term has been used often as to cognitive abilities are reduced when somebody has dementia or when somebody has Alzheimer's disease, or when you maintain the levels of HDL high, you have an improved cognitive ability. And again, you might see articles which state that how to improve cognitive ability. Basically, what is a cognitive ability? Cognitive ability is to look or learn a process, retain it, reason it, logic it, and recall it. So basically, when you know something and you can recall it, then that would be considered as a cognitive ability. There are several things which are involved when you're doing a task. For example, if I see a apple, it will create into my memory, and then memory is consolidated, and then there is a recall. So there are three stages to anything being retained by me, whether it is a food item, whether it is a recipe that I read, whether it is the music that I heard, whether it is a song that I want to recall. So initially we look at it, and that goes into a creation of a memory. Then it is consolidated. This process occurs more often in sleep. And then lastly, when it is needed, we can recall it. If somebody is singing a song, we remember or recall the words. So that's the third process. But, what is a cognitive ability? So that's where there are several things. People consider this. There are 9 different things that you can do or you have that can be considered as cognitive. The first thing is a sustained or focused attention. So if you're doing a work or if you're reading a book, can you continue to read it for X number of minutes or hours without looking at your phone, getting out and doing something else? So that's called sustained focused attention. That's number 1. Number 2 is selective. You may be in library or you may be in the office and you're doing a task. When you're doing that, can you devote your attention 100% on a selective task? If you're solving a problem, you're writing an essay, or you're doing something, can you continue to do that in spite of several distractions that are normally happening in a workplace? So that's the selective. So not only the attention has to be sustained, but it has to be selective. Those are the 2. Number 3 is divided attention. Sometimes you have to do 2 things at the same time. Like you may be talking to somebody, but at the same time you're working on something. Or you may be writing something, somebody comes and asks you a question and you have to answer it, go back to what you were doing. So the divided attention is number 3. So again, sustained, selective, and divided attention. Those are the 3 that are part of the cognitive ability or development. The 4th one is long-term memory. Something that you had heard a month ago, 2 months ago, 5 years ago. Long-term memory. Can you retain it? You might have visited a restaurant 3 months ago and somebody says, I was looking for a Mexican restaurant, and you can recall it. You might have watched a movie and you can recall the name or the actors and actresses or the storyline. Long-term memory. Then there is a short-term memory. Short-term memory is something that has happened recently. Like somebody asks you, what did you eat for your breakfast? What did you have yesterday for the dinner? Where did you go yesterday afternoon on a weekend? These are short-term memories, something that has happened in last few hours, few days, that kind of stuff. So there is a long-term memory and there is a short-term memory. Again, coming back to the list, sustained concentration, selective concentration, divided concentration, a long-term memory. Fifth was the short-term memory. Then the sixth is logic and reasoning. If you're looking at something and you say, this is related to that, or because I see this pattern, I think the next one is that. You know the puzzles that are given as to certain numbers, like let's say simple one, 1, 3, 5, 7. What would be the next number? Now you know that we are doing alternate numbers, so next number would be 9. Or if we're doing, say, 2, 4, 16, we know we are doing squares. So that's the logical reasoning that we are applying. So next number will be 264, which is square of 16. 2 square is 4, 4 square is 16, 16 square is 264. So that's how called logic. Again, this logic can be applied in a murder mystery, in a project, in failures or success when we are trying to build something, that kind of stuff. So the logic becomes the sixth element. And then we have this understanding that the memory can be visual or auditory. That means I listen to something and I can retain it. Say I'm going for a lecture or I'm in a meeting where somebody is teaching or giving how to do certain things. I remember it. So that's the auditory memory. Auditory memory is what I have listened, not read, not seen, but listen. So it could be a song, it could be instruction to do some task, it could be a story that we can recall. That's called auditory cognitive function. Visual, certainly you can understand what could be visual. I read something, I saw something. I was passing by and I saw a red Corvette. And I would say, oh yeah, I saw a red Corvette. And XYZ or somebody looking like this was driving it. So that's called visual logic, or rather visual cognitive function. This could be related to many things, including the dress that somebody has worn, to a fruit or the food item that we might have seen or eaten in a particular restaurant at a particular time. So the visual memory or cognitive function is that part. And the last one is a processing speed. So the ninth one under the cognitive ability is called processing speed. Yes, I attended a lecture. I listened to the instructions. Now, can I recall them? The answer may be yes, but it might take me 10 seconds. It may take me a minute. It might take me half an hour, or I might recollect it 3 hours down the road. You know, you've seen people saying that he was laughing because he heard a joke half an hour ago, because the processing skills are very important. So the ninth one is the speed with which we can process all these things that I told you, especially the logic, the auditory, and visual memories. Same is with the long-term and short-term memory. So cognitive function is 9 different factors: sustained, selective, and divided attention, 3. Long-term memory, 4. Short-term memory, 5. Logic is 6. Auditory memory, 7th, whatever it comes to number. Visual memory is 8th, and the processing speed is the 9th one. Now, certainly we can improve upon cognitive function because the memory is depending upon creation of memory, consolidation of memory, and recall of memory. So to understand this, basically when you create a memory, you may want to remember something that you already know and remember. If somebody gives me a word called camisa in Spanish, which means shirt, an Indian word for shirt is also kameez. So if I could correlate those two things, I can remember it more easily, and certainly I can recall it. But creating, consolidating, and recalling memory or the events is another lecture by itself. Along with that, how to improve the cognitive function would be the next time. Thank you for looking at it. I hope you like it, subscribe it. Have a nice day.